Hello folks, so in this video I want to talk about how we can use a system of equations to solve a problem like this. Well, step one is figure out what the heck is going on and then kind of translate all this big paragraph to an equation or set of equations. So we have Ariel here who bought several bags of candy. She bought caramel and she bought bags of taffy as well. What we do know is that the number of bags of taffy was 5 more than the number of bags of caramels. And we also know that each taffy bag weighs 8 ounces and each caramel bag weighs 16 ounces. And the total weight of all the candy, or all the bags of candy, was 400 ounces. The question is, how many bags of candy did she buy? So I always like to underline that, step one, figure out what the heck we are actually looking to find out. Okay, so we're going to want to use several equations here. And we can see why there's several equations is because I don't think there's any one equation that could encapsulate or capture all the information. Whenever you see problems like this, it's usually somewhat clear as to what your equations are going to represent. So take a look at this first sentence, well, I guess second sentence here. And I'm going to underline it in light blue here. So the number of bags of taffy is 5 more than the number of bags of caramels. We can also see, so that sentence there talks about just the number of bags. Nothing particular about the bags, just how many there are. The second thing here, which I'll do in, I guess, green, the taffy bags weigh 8 ounces apiece, the caramel bags weigh 16, and also the total weight of all the bags is 400 ounces. Notice that those green sentences, they don't say anything about the number of bags. All they say is how much the bags weigh. And so since the green sentences talk about one property of the situation, and the blue sentence talks about some other property, the number of bags, that's going to be what tells us how to set up our two equations. Okay, so again, the question is how many bags of candy did she buy? So we're going to use that to figure out what our variables are. So we'll write a let statement here. We're going to say let, this is convenient because taffy and caramel start with different letters, so I always like to use those as my variables. I'm going to say let t equal the number of bags of taffy. Again, we want to be really specific here about what it is. I don't want to say to let t equal taffy, because what does that mean? Does it mean the flavor, the price, the weight? No, in this scenario, we want to know how many bags we bought, or Ariel bought rather. Likewise, I'm going to say let c equal the number of bags of caramel, or caramel, or however you want to say it. I won't judge. Okay. Now that we have that, we're going to set up our two equations. So I'm going to use our colors here to color code this. I'm going to make that a little bit thicker for you. Apologize. So let me just re-erase that. So the number of bags of taffy was 5 more. So the number of bags of taffy we can see here. That already is t. When we say something is or something was, like we say x is 5, that would say x equals 5. And so this was part, that's going to be our equal sign. So I'm going to start off with t equals, let's see, the number of bags of caramels right here, remember, well, we said that is represented by the variable c. Let me zoom in for that. Right there, as you can see. And likewise, the last part we need to deal with is the 5 more than. More than, remember, is an indicator that you're adding. What's 5 more than 7? Will be 7 plus 5, which is 12. Right? And so we could write this equation. The number of bags of taffy is, or was, 5 more than, so 5 plus, the number of bags of caramels. Right? So again, this is a skill, translating the English into the math, that we want to be pretty good at. Because again, this is kind of the whole point of the math that we're learning. All right, the second equation is a little bit harder to get through. Taffy bags weigh 8 ounces each, and the caramel bags weigh 16 ounces each. And we know that the total weight of all the bags of candy is 400 ounces. Okay, so I like to think of this one a little bit backwards. So the total weight of all the bags of candy is 400. So let's think about this. Well, first off, we have 400 here, and then was, just like before, signified an equal sign, so we'll say was 400. So I'm going to say equals 400 here to start. Oopsies. There we go. Sorry about that. It's been a while since I've used this thing. Okay, so we want to know where all the weight comes from. So the total weight comes from this. The total weight is equal to 400. And of course, you might not be writing this all down every single time, but this is what's going through my brain as I'm doing this. Here's my question. What is contributing to the total weight? Well, at least as far as we're interested in, we only care about the candy. So the total weight must come from the weight of the taffy, I'll say, to start. Again, in ounces. Plus, because total means you add them up, right? Total weight means that you add. The total weight comes from the weight of the taffy plus the weight of the caramel. Also in ounces. It's really important that all our units are across are the same. And that's going to equal, again, 400 ounces. Okay, well, if that's true, the question is now, how do we know the weight of the taffy? Because we don't know that. Well, this is where we go back to this. I'm running out of color. It's getting a little bit messy here, so I'm going to, I suppose, highlight this. So, I'll highlight this in yellow. So we need to know that the total taffy, we have to figure out, we have to relate that to how much each bag weighs. Well, if each bag weighs 8 ounces, then the thing we would need to know also is how many bags of taffy there are. And once we have both of those pieces of information, we would just multiply them together, right? And so we can say that the weight of each bag of taffy comes from this. The weight of one bag of taffy again, times the number of bags, times the number of bags of taffy, of course. Because this is information we have. Well, we don't know the number of bags yet, but again, we do know that the number of bags of taffy, we're letting that equal t, right? That's the variable we're looking for. How much does each bag of taffy weigh? Well, each one weighs 8 ounces. And so that's why we're going to have 8t right there. Likewise, I won't go through the whole thing for the caramels, but let's see, the weight of the caramels, each one weighs 16 ounces, we can see here. And so that's going to come out to 16 times c. And that's going to equal 400 ounces. So, well, maybe I should do this in green, actually. Right here. Didn't work out. Okay, so those are actually our two equations. Our two equations right here are the first equation, t equals 5 plus c, to our second equation, 8t plus 16c is equal to 400. Okay, so this video actually went a little bit longer than anticipated, but hopefully that really helped you figure out how to turn the words into the equation, because this is, again, possibly the most important step, because we need to do this before we can actually answer the question. So I'm going to end this video here, and in the next video, we'll talk about how to actually solve the problem now.